In today's video, I want to talk about how to make some charts in Microsoft Excel. Now, in this video, I'm using Excel 2016, but many of the same techniques will work in Excel 2013, Excel 2010, and Excel 2007. So here's some great data to make a chart from. Now, what's really helpful here is that we have the column headings and we have the row headings, and that's going to make a difference in our chart. You don't need those things to make a chart, but it sure is going to help when we have the column headings and the row headings. I'm going to make several kind of charts in this video. So first of all, you're going to highlight your data. So let's highlight starting in cell A3 all the way over to I9. Now I could have included the totals, but I'm just not going to include the totals for this one. Now I started in cell A3 because notice how your first row contains your column headings and your first column contains your row headings. That's pretty much going to guarantee that the chart's going to look as good as possible. From here, we'll pick on the Insert menu up top. And under the Insert menu, you have your different chart types. Now this menu looks slightly different in Excel 2007 and Excel 2010, but the general theme is the same. So in this case, I'm going to pick on the column chart first, and we'll do some more later on. And then we have, even here we have our column charts, the 3D column charts, the bar charts, and the 3D bar charts. So you have lots of chart types even from this screen. And I'm just going to pick on the first one right here. And right away, it makes a half-decent chart for us. Now, of course, we're going to be able to make a lot of changes to that chart, but right from the get-go, it makes a half-decent chart. Now let's go over some basic terminology. These numbers over here on the left-hand side, that's called the y-axis. Now where it says January, February, March at the bottom here, that's called the x-axis. This guy here at the very bottom is called the legend, and the legend is going to show you the color and what that color represents. So notice how the row and column headings made its way into the chart. So that's why they were important. The next thing I will do is to move the chart. To move the chart, I'm going to move my mouse onto the chart, onto the background of the chart. See where my mouse is. It's going to say chart area. When it says chart area, then I'm just going to pick it up and drag it over here, so it's not in the way. Now I want to show you that if you change the data on your spreadsheet, the chart will also change. So for example, right now it says sales and marketing and advertising, and you can see the chart says the same thing. So there I'll type in sales. And down here it says research and development, and I'll change that to R and D, and notice how the chart changed as well. So when you change the data on the spreadsheet, the chart will also change. Now the next thing I'd like to do is I'd like to make that chart larger to make it easier to read. To make it larger, I'm going to click on the chart, click right on it. Now I'm going to come over here on the corner and get the sizing handle. You can tell I'm on the sizing handle because your mouse becomes a double arrow. I like to use the one in the corner so it keeps it in proportion. So I'm going to get the double arrow and stretch it out, and the chart became larger, as we can see. So to make the chart larger, you're going to click on it. Now there's also a sizing handle up here at the top, on the sides, at the bottom, but I want to use the one in the corner, so we're going to get the double arrow and stretch it out, and you can see it made it bigger. You might understand why I made it bigger when you turned 40, right? But, you know, we'll see about that. Okay, so now we have a nice chart. Now let's start to modify our chart. I'm going to click on the chart. When you click on the chart, you get two extra menus up top, Design and Format. Now, if you have Excel 2007 or Excel 2010, then you get three extra menus up there. You get Design, Layout, and Format. Notice how I don't have the layout menu anymore in Excel 2013. Let me show you what happened to it. So we used to have the layout menu, which used to have our chart options, like the chart title and the axis title and things like that. Let me show you where they moved that in Excel 2013 and Excel 2016. So I want to pick on the design menu. And then you come way over here on the right, on the left, and you pick on add chart element. And then we see what used to be under the layout menu. So if you're watching this, and if you have Excel 2010 or Excel 2007, you'll have the layout menu, and you'll find those same kind of choices, except they'll be going across the screen on the ribbon. Here in Excel 2013 and 16, you pick on the design menu and you pick on add chart element, and then you see those items. We used to call those the chart options in the really old versions of Excel. They were called the chart options. All right, so I'm going to click on my chart, and that gives us the two extra menus here, design and format. Let's talk about the design menu. So now, if you get this extra screen here, it's something that came with Excel 2013 and 16. In this case, I'm just going to click away from the chart and then click on the chart again, and then we'll be fine. So first, let's start with the design menu. Now you have some quick layouts, and what that means is we can, these are preset formats. And if you go through them, it'll show you that it's going to add various options in there. So you might want to try some of the quick layouts and see if these can help you out. We can change the color scheme really quickly. All right, so we have various color schemes. You can go through some of those. Notice how the preview mode is kicking in, and you can see what they might look like. Now here we have the chart styles. So the chart styles are just preset formats with different color schemes as well. So you can see how they're changing your chart. You have some preset formats under your chart style. So you really get a great head start by using the quick layouts, changing the color scheme, or using the chart styles. So make sure you experiment with those. But I really want to show you how to customize your chart. So I like this one that's called Switch Row and Column right there. Notice right now my month names are on the x-axis and my department names are on the legend. So if I come up here and if I pick on Switch Row and Column, then notice how it flipped. Now the department names are on the x-axis and the month names are on the legend. So with that button right there, you get to have two different pictures of your data, two different views. So I'll go back, and now you can see how the month names are on the x-axis and the department names are on the legend. Now this next one can be very important for you. It's called Select Data. So I'll pick on Select Data right there. Now first of all, this window is going to appear, and it's going to tell you where your chart's coming from. So if I go into this spreadsheet and it has a chart, one of the first things I'll do is I'll pick on Select Data to see where the chart's coming from. Now the next reason why this is important is, let's say next month you have more rows or more columns. In other words, you have more data. Well, then you would go in here and make sure you highlight the larger range so the chart will reflect that. So that can be very important for you. First reason I go on this screen is to see where the data is coming from. And the second reason is maybe you have to highlight a larger range, so that will be included in the chart as well. I'm going to click on OK. Now, notice over here on the design menu, we have one that's called Change Chart Type. By the way, if you are using Excel 2007 or Excel 2010, then these three choices right there, they'll still be under the design menu, but they'll be on the left side of the design menu if you have Excel 2010 or Excel 2007, but they're called the same thing. In this case, I'm going to pick on Change Chart Type. And notice how Excel has many chart types to choose from, and in this video we'll talk about some of these. Another really popular one is called a line chart. I'll pick on line, and I'll pick on one of those, and you can see how the chart is now a line chart. So changing your chart type is not hard. I'm going to pick on Change Chart Type, and we'll pick on the column category, and I'll go back to the one that we were on, and I'll click on OK. All right, so you can see changing your chart type is not difficult. Now, if you follow my mouse up here, on the right side of the design menu, it says Move Chart. Now, that's going to allow me to move it to a different sheet. Sometimes you want the data on one sheet and the chart on a separate sheet. So that allows me to move it to a different sheet, as you can see. Now, in this case, I don't have to do it. It was just an example. Now, even if you move your chart to a different sheet, when you change the data on the main sheet, the chart will also change. So that allows you to move the chart to a different sheet. I'm going to pick on Cancel right there. That was called Move Chart right here under the Design menu. So now I'm going to go through some of those chart options. So in this case, I'm going to scroll down a little bit and maybe make the chart even bigger. Just stretch it out with the sizing handle, as you can see. Okay, good. So now I'm going to pick on the Design menu, and I'll pick on Add Chart Element. Remember, if you're using Excel 2007 or Excel 2010, these will be under the Layout menu, and they'll be going across the ribbon. But they're called the same thing. If I didn't have a chart title, then I'll pick on the word chart title there, and I'll say above chart. That's the one I like. And you can see if you didn't have a chart title before, now it does say chart title. So you type in whatever you want into there. So I'll type in 2016 budget. If you're watching the recording of this, then I did record this in Excel in 2016. Now, sometimes people will say, well, can we make it so that it's going to show the same title that you have on your spreadsheet up there? Let me show you how to do that. On the chart, you're going to click on the chart title. Now, what you do is you type in the equal sign to start a formula. And then you click on the cell that you want to reproduce. All right, so that was important. I typed in the equal sign, then I clicked on the cell, in this case, cell A1. I'll hit the Enter key. And now notice how my chart title is the same as what's in cell A1. So that was a good trick right there. Now, the next title that I would like to add is over here on the side. You've seen these before. It might say dollars or gallons or cases or something like that. That's called the axis title. So once again, I'll pick on the design menu. Then we'll come over here and we'll say add chart element. And we'll say axis title. Now, the primary horizontal will be at the bottom, and the primary vertical will be on the side. So I'll say primary vertical. And notice over here, it says axis title. Well, I want that to say something better, so in this case, I'll type in dollars. So I would almost always add the axis title on the side, and I would almost always add the chart title. All right, so now we know what the chart's talking about. It makes more sense. Now, a lot of times when I show people charts, they want to know how we can manage these numbers over here on the side. That's called the y-axis. And maybe we want to get rid of some of those zeros. Maybe we want to get rid of the decimal places and clean that up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my mouse to those numbers right there, and I'm going to double click on that number. Now, when we double click anywhere on the chart, it's going to give you this new menu. Now, if you have Excel 2010 or Excel 2007, the extra menu will be in the middle here. But in Excel 2013 and 16, the extra menu is on the side. So this gives you a lot more flexibility. You can double click anywhere on your chart, and you get this new menu from which you have a lot more choices. So, for example, if I want to change that to maybe go up to 60,000 or 100,000 or something like that, then over here I would change the minimum or the maximum numbers right there. Now here it's breaking it down into every 5,000, as you can see. So that's called the major units. You can see it says 5,000 there, so you can adjust that. The minor units would apply if you have the minor grid lines on, which we could do later on. But that will only show up if you have the minor grid lines on. But here I have the major grid lines. This is 5,000, and you can see every line is every $5,000. So we can change that as well. Now here's a really important one over here. It says display units. I'm going to click on that pull down. So you can show your numbers in hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions, billions, trillions. Okay, even trillions are there. Let's try thousands, and let's see what that does. Notice right away that took off a lot of the zeros, and now it's just this thousands there. So that made it a little bit easier to read. So we came into the screen that's called Format Access. I got there by double clicking on those numbers on the side, and then from here I changed the display units to say thousands, as you can see. And there's other choices there, obviously. Now, what about those decimal places? Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick on this word that's called number. And then you have your classic number formatting. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to a 0. I don't really need to see the pennies here on a chart like that. So I'll make the decimal places 0. And then you have your other formats that you're used to. Now, the thousand separator, if you needed that, that would be the comma between your thousands and your millions. And then you can show your negative numbers either with a minus sign, or in red, or in parentheses, or red and parentheses. So check with your accounting department and ask them how they want to see their negative numbers. Now what they're going to tell you is they don't want to see negative numbers at all, right? But when they do show, how should they display? So you have a lot more choices here on the screen. I'm going to make sure that we have a number format with 0 decimal places. And then I'm going to close this extra window with the X over here. And now we can see it says thousands there. I got rid of a lot of the zeros, and they're also whole numbers so that it got rid of the decimal places as well. So it looks a lot cleaner now. Now let's continue on talking about some of the chart options. So you see this guy down here at the bottom. This is called the legend. The legend is going to show you the color and what that color represents. So some people like to have that on the side or at the top, or maybe not even show that at all. So I'll pick on the design menu. We'll come way over here and we'll say add chart element, and then we'll pick on legend. Now if you pick on none, it's not going to be there at all. But notice how I can put it on the right, the top, the left, or the bottom of the chart. So I'm going to keep it on the bottom. I just wanted to show you that we do have some more options for the legend. Now the next one is something that people like a lot. They might say, can you put the numbers on each individual bar? That's called a data label. So again, I'm going to pick on the design menu, and we'll pick on add chart element, and we'll pick on data label. Now I like the one that's called outside end, but you can always try the different ones. So I'll pick on the outside end, and you can see how that put the numbers on each individual bar, just like that. Now these are showing the decimal places. You can get rid of the decimal places in the same way that we did before. So in this case, I'm going to pick on one of those numbers. Notice how all of the numbers for that same color are now selected. So actually what I can do is I'm going to click away from that for a second. Click over here. Then I'll double click on the number. If we double click on the number, then you're going to get that extra window as we can see again. And in this case, I'm going to pick on the 3 bars right there. And I'll pick on the number category. And again, I can make these number format and then change the number of decimal places. But these numbers on the side are on the top of the bars are called the legend. I mean the data label. All right. So now, what if you didn't want those to be there anymore? Then I'll pick on add chart element, data label, and I'll say none, and they go away. So adding things to your chart is just as easy as taking things away, as we can see. Now sometimes when I do the data label, somebody will say, well, can I make them appear on the inside of the bar, kind of on the side like that? So let's see what we can do about that. I'm going to say add chart element, data label, and I'll say outside. First of all, we'll say inside end. And if you notice, the numbers are now on the inside of the bar. Now I want to make those, first of all, a different color so that we can read them easier. So I'm going to click on that number. And again, notice how all of the numbers for the same color are now selected. And then there's numerous ways we can change that. I'll pick on the home menu. And I'm just going to change the font color to be white. Or maybe a lighter color, you know, so that they're going to stand out. Good. Now watch how we can change those to be on the side. Now, if this extra menu isn't already open, here's another way to open it. Notice how my numbers are now selected. In this case, I'm going to pick on the Format menu. Format. Then we'll come way over here on the left and we'll pick on Format Selection. And notice how that's going to open up the extra window as well. So I can either double click on the part of the chart, or you can pick on the part of the chart and you pick on Format, and then you say Format Selection. And those are both ways to open up the extra window over here. So watch what we're going to do. Here's this Format Data Labels. And I'm going to pick on this guy right here. Size and Properties is what it says. Then we're going to expand where it says Alignment. And then we're going to change the text direction to be rotate all text 90 degrees, or in my case I'll say 270. And notice what that did. It actually changed the text so it is vertical. And because I made it white, now it stands out really quickly. So watch again. I'm going to click on one of the numbers from one of the bars. That shows all of the numbers for that color bar all the way across, as you can see. Now if this menu on the side was not open, then I'll pick on the Format menu, and I'll pick on Format Selection over there on the left. In this case, we have the extra screen. So now I'll pick on this guy right over here that says Size and Properties, then we'll pick, if alignment was not already expanded, we'll expand the alignment. And we're going to go ahead and change the text direction to say vertical. Rotate all text 270. Or you can also make it stacked like that. Some people like it that way. So let's try stacked even for this one. And you can see how the numbers are now stacked. Maybe the other one was better. So we'll make it rotate. And now you can see the numbers are rotated. If I want to change the color of those, that's just normal formatting. I'll pick on home and we'll go back to the white color. And they stand out maybe a little bit better there. All right? And you would do that for each of the numbers on the different bars. So you have the vertical numbers there. I'm going to close out of this window on the side. Now here's another way to show the numbers on the chart. Now a lot of times to select the entire chart, I'm going to go ahead and pick on the background of the chart where it says chart area. I'm going to click right there to select the entire chart. From here I'll pick on the design menu and I'm going to say add chart element, and then I'll pick on something that's called the data table, and then I'll pick on the second choice right there. Let's see what that does for us. Notice how that put the numbers below the chart. So maybe you like it that way. That's called the data table. Here it might be a little bit too busy, so I can take that away. I'll say add chart element, data table, and I'll say none. And you can see that makes that go away. So notice how those numbers down at the bottom, that's called the data table if you like those. But I'm just going to take that away by saying the word none. And we're back to normal here. All right. So you have so many great choices with your charts. Do you see the lines on the background of the chart? That's called grid lines. Grid lines. So you have control over those as well. I'll say add chart element, grid lines. And I already have the horizontal lines. I would like to have the vertical lines. So I'm going to do a primary, major, vertical. And now you can see I have the vertical lines there as well. So if you wanted to, you can turn the lines off completely. You would say add chart element, grid lines, and then you would say just uncheck both of those so they're not selected anymore. So those are your lines in your chart. Now, a lot of people like this next one. It's called the trend line. The trend line is going to connect the dots between the series and show the trend more clearly. So I'm going to say add chart element, trend line, and then I'm going to pick on linear. And that's going to be a straight line. And then I'll pick my series. I'll pick on the computer series, and I'll click on OK. And now you can see how we have the straight line between this, the series. That's called a trend line. Now we can do something special with the trend line. We can make it do a projection onto the future. So I'm just going to go ahead and go right to that line, see where my mouse is. I'm right on the line, and I'll double click on it. And that once again is going to open up the extra menu on the side. So notice how it says format trend line. So all of these choices are just about that straight line. There's so many things you could do within these format screens when you double click on the chart, or like we said before, the format selection. Now notice what it says down here. It says forecast forward or forecast backward. So I'm going to change that 0 right there to the number 3. So when we say forecast forward, it changed that to the number 3. And I'm going to go ahead and close that window. And now notice what happened. It actually made the trend line go into the future. So that was a pretty nice one to know about. In this case, I'm going to double click on the trend line, double click. That opens up the extra screen. Over here, I changed the forecast forward to say 3, which in our case happened to be 3 months. Now these might be helpful for you. If I say display the equation or display the r squared, then let's see what happened there. And you can see it gives you some extra information about the line as well. So maybe that was helpful for you as well. Now if I don't want that line to be there anymore, I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and then I'll hit my delete key on my keyboard, and that'll make that go away. So you're never set in stone here. You can always go back and forth with the different options of your charts. Now let me show you some more of these. I'll click on add chart element. Now remember, you have to click on the chart first, And then you'll have the design menu and the format menu. If I click away from the chart, notice how those are not there anymore. So I'm going to click on my chart, and then I'll pick on the design menu. And I'll say add chart element. Now notice how a couple of them are not available. Those might be available when you have a line chart or other kinds of charts. In this case, I'm going to go to where it says error bars. And then let's try the standard error and see what that does. And those might be ranges of acceptable numbers. So it shows an upper limit, and if you look really closely, it'll show a lower limit. So those are like acceptable values, acceptable ranges. So I'm going to turn that off again. I'll say add chart element, the error bar, and I'll say none. So you have a lot of flexibility with your charts, as you can see. And we used to call those the chart options. Now you pick on the design menu of the chart and you pick on add chart element. Now in this case, I'm going to turn off the data label. Or you know what, let's make them all vertical. So it looks a little bit better there. So I'm going to click on the blue one, the blue number, and notice how they're all selected. So first of all, I'll make those white. Now watch what I'll do again. I'll go back to the design menu. I'll go back to the format menu, and I'll pick on format selection. And remember how we did that a couple minutes ago? I'm going to go back into the size and alignment, and we'll change the text direction to be rotate all text 270. Good. Now I'll just do the same kind of thing for, let's see if the format painter works. I'm not sure if it will or not, but I'll take a shot. So I'll click on that number. I'll pick on the format menu. I mean the home menu. And I'll do the format painter right there that you might be familiar with. And let's see if we can make it go with those numbers as well. So that doesn't seem to be working right now, but I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. So I'll click on that number. First of all, we'll change the text direction to be 270. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make it white. And we'll do that for the other numbers as well. Text direction. And then we'll make that white. It doesn't let me pick more than one, by the way. If I held in my shift key and try to pick more than one at the same time, it's not going to let me do that. So I'll click on the number and I'll do text direction to 270, and we'll make that one white as well. So now all of the bars have the numbers and they have the data labels and they're vertical. All right, so we have a nice looking chart now. I'm going to go ahead and close that window. Now if you wanted additional text on your chart, maybe you can add data labels through the insert menu. If I say insert, then maybe you can add pictures to the chart. I've seen people use shapes, the text boxes. All of those can be added right to your chart. Now I'm going to go ahead and save my spreadsheet. Now a lot of times when I show people charts, they'll say, well, can we use this chart in Excel, but also use that same chart in Word or in PowerPoint or a different program? And the answer is yes. So what you do is you make your chart in Excel, and then you're going to move your mouse to where it says chart area right there. And I'm going to click there. So that selects the entire chart, which is very important for this next step. So I'm just going to move over here and move your mouse to where it says chart area. When it does say chart area, you click there. And that selects the entire chart. From here, I'll just do a normal copy. So I'm going to right click on the chart and I'll pick on copy. Now you're going to go to a different program. Maybe it's Word or PowerPoint or something like that. So I'm going to go into PowerPoint. That's the one that many people use. So I pick on my Start menu, of course, and then I have Windows 10 here. So I'll pick on Apps, and I'll go to PowerPoint. Good. Now the technique that I'm about to show you in PowerPoint will work the exact same way in Word or Visio or Outlook or Project or any of the other Microsoft programs. Really, it'll work the same way. All right, so we're going to open up PowerPoint, and just give me a second. So now PowerPoint is on the screen as well, as we can see. Okay, so in Excel I did a copy. Here I'm not just going to do a paste, I'm going to do a paste special, and I'll show you why. So I'll pick on the home menu, and I'm going to pick on the pull down where it says paste, and then I'll pick on paste special. And then we get this window. Now, there's a couple reasons why I like to do paste special instead of just normal paste. First of all, the chart's going to look better. It really will. It'll look better when you do a paste special. Second of all, look at this choice. It's called paste link. That means if the chart changes in Excel, it'll also change it here at the same time. So if you want that to be linked together, you pick on paste link. Now make sure you pick on the one that's called Microsoft Excel Chart Object, because that's the one that really works the best. Sometimes there's more than one in the middle. You'll pick on the one that's called Microsoft Excel Chart Object. And I'll click on OK. Here we are in PowerPoint, or whatever program that you're in, and notice how there's the chart. And it looks pretty good. Now here in PowerPoint, that's really just a picture. So I can resize that to fit the slide better. It looks pretty good because we did a paste special and then a paste link. Now let's see what paste link does. That means if I change it back in Excel, it's going to change it here at the same time. So let's go back to Excel now. And there's the chart. Okay, good. Now I'm going to make an obvious change on my Excel spreadsheet. So I'm going to pick on the company budget, the chart title up there. And notice how we get the format menu. Now the format menu is where we can change that specific part of the chart. So I can change the fill, which is the background color, the outline, which is the border. We can change the text areas. Now I like these things that are called shape styles. These are preset formats. And I'll pick on the red shape style. And you can see my company budget became red. And I'm going to come over here and pick on the word thousands and make that red. And I'll pick on the word dollars and make that red. Good. So those are pretty obvious changes. So my point there is you can pick anywhere on the chart and then pick on the format menu to do further formatting, as we can see. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now let's see if the chart changed in PowerPoint as well. So I'm going to go back to PowerPoint on the bottom of my window. There it is. There's the chart. And you can see that it did change. It changed because we did a copy from Excel. Then we came over here and we said paste special and then paste link. Now, even if the PowerPoint presentation wasn't opened, the next time you open it up, it'll have the newest version of the chart because we said paste special and then paste link. By the way, that'll work between any two Microsoft programs. We can go from Word to PowerPoint, PowerPoint to Excel, Excel to PowerPoint, or any combination. So you can copy from one, go to the other program and say paste special, paste link. So that means if you changed one, you change the other. So where we found that was under the home menu, and then we picked in the pull down where it says paste, and then we said paste special, as we can see. And then I said paste link. And then make sure you pick the one that says Microsoft Excel Chart Object. Or if you're copying any kind of data, it might say Microsoft Excel, some other kind of data. But that's the one that you will always want to pick, the one that says Object at the end. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about with PowerPoint here in this session. I'll probably make other videos about PowerPoint specifically later on. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize PowerPoint. And now we're back to Excel. Now I want to show you some other chart types. So in this case, we'll make something that's called a sparkline. A sparkline is a miniature chart, and it actually fits in one cell. So a lot of people are liking these quite a bit because the sparkline doesn't take up a whole lot of room, and yet we can still show the data graphically. So I'm going to pick on a blank cell right there. I'll pick on L4, and then from here I'll pick on the insert menu, insert, and I'm going to come over here and I'll pick on the, notice how we have the sparkline group right there. So somewhere on the insert menu, look for the group that says sparkline. Just like that. And then I'll pick on the word columns. Now, by the way, the sparklines are not available in Excel 2007. They started in Excel 2010. Now, it's asking for the data range. The data range for that row is from C4 over to I4. C4 to I4. And then the location range is where the sparkline will appear, and I'm going to put that in cell L4. And I'm going to click on OK. That's a sparkline. It's just a miniature chart that fits in one cell. Now, what's interesting about that is if the numbers change, I'm going to change this to 12,000 right there. And you can see how the sparkline updated as well. So notice how it was going straight up. Now it's going up and down because it changed the numbers. Now let's go ahead and click on that cell. And I'm going to go ahead and get the black cross and drag it down. So we can have the sparkline on all the other rows as well. So each row now has their own individual chart. People really like these sparklines for that reason. It doesn't take up a whole lot of room, but now I have a chart for each individual row. Here's how you can do some formatting with your sparkline. I'm going to go ahead and click on that chart, and I'm going to go ahead and pick on the design menu. Now you only get that design menu when you click on the sparkline. From here we have different formatting options. You can change colors and things like this. So I'm going to say high point and low point. Now the low numbers are very hard to see. If you look closely you can see them, but clearly the high numbers became a different color. So when you pick on your sparkline you get the design menu. From there you can do further formatting. But that's all that it really is. I'm going to do this for you again. So in this case, I'll go to the bottom of column C. I'll go to cell C10 and I'll say insert and then sparkline. Notice how it says sparklines right there, and I'll pick on the word that's called column. Now this time the data range will be C4 to C9. And then the location is going to be C10 for the sparkline. And then there it is. So people will use these at the bottom of the column or at the end of the row to graphically show that data. And then I have the I have the design menu from which I can make some different formatting changes, as we can see. Great new addition to Excel that's called a sparkline. Now I'm going to get rid of the one that we just did over here, so I'm going to undo that a couple times until that one won't be there anymore. And now it's gone. Okay, so here we made a column chart. Now if I picked on that chart, then you can pick on the design menu, and then here you have change chart type, and then you can choose from many chart types as well. Now when I teach this in a public format, a lot of people will ask me, let's say you really like the colors that you chose, and you like the fact that the data labels are vertical like that, and you like the legend on the bottom, everything is looking good. Can we save this for use in future charts? So I'm going to go ahead and save this spreadsheet. Now let me show you how you do make a chart template. You're going to move your mouse onto your chart and you right click on it. When you right click on it, notice how it says save as template. So I'm going to do that. Now when you save it as a template, make sure you don't change the folder name up there. Leave it right on that folder name. That's where it's going to look for them. And you want to give these a good name. So you can have as many of the chart templates as you need, so you want to make sure you give them a good name. So I'll call this one Amazon. And I'll pick on save. So let me show you how you would use that now in a future chart. I'm going to go to a different spreadsheet. I'll pick on File, Open. And I pick on Browse here. And I'll go to a different spreadsheet that's called Consolidated Example. By the way, to get my files that I use for my classes, for these videos, you send me an email to getclassfiles@gmail.com. I'll even spell it out here. Getclassfiles@gmail.com. And then it'll give you instructions on how to download the files that I use for my videos. I can make that larger for you. All right, so if you send the email to this email address, then it'll show you how to get the files for the class. I want to make sure you saw that. Now here's a nice Excel spreadsheet. It's pretty similar, obviously, right? So I'm going to highlight the data, starting from cell A3 all the way to cell I9. And I want to now make a chart using that same template that we just made. So I'm going to pick on the Insert menu, Insert. And what you do is you pick on any one of the chart types. Pick on this one, and you say More Column Charts. All right, that's the important choice, More Column Charts, because then when we get to this screen, then we can use templates. And now I must have done a few more in previous sessions, but you look for the one. Here is the one that we made for Amazon. And you can tell it says Amazon right there. So I'll pick on that one. You can have as many of those as you need. That's why you want to give them a good name. And I'll pick on OK. Let's see what happened. It made a chart. Notice how it has, I'll just make that larger for you, of course, by stretching it out. Notice how the numbers are vertical on the bars. The titles are the same colors that I like. The numbers are in thousands. So it kept all the same formatting. Now, of course, I would change that chart title just by clicking on it and typing there and changing the title. It basically, I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I was able to use the chart template. So that was a good lesson right there. In this case, I'm going to go back to our other chart. And I'll go back to our Excel spreadsheet. And there's the one that we're working with at the beginning. Now, the next chart that I'm going to make for you is one that a lot of people ask me for. They want to see how we can plot two different types of data on the same chart at the same time. We're going to make a two-axis chart, or you might see it referred to as a combo chart, because part of it will be a column chart and part of it will be a line chart. So if you notice over here, I have column K, and we have the percent of total. Well, the percent of total is a lot smaller than the other numbers. So if I try to put that on the same chart as the other numbers, you would hardly even see it because the numbers are too small. So somehow I want to figure out a way to get the percent of total on there on the same chart at the same time. So watch what we'll do. First of all, we're going to highlight our data again. I'm going to go from A3 all the way over to K9. From A3, this time I am going to include column K. And at this point, I'll highlight the data again. I'll go from A3 to K9. And I'll say Insert. And we're going to use the same chart type. We'll pick on this one right here. And I'll pick on the first one as we did before. Now I'm going to move that chart in just a second. Notice how I can't even see the percent of total. So we'll deal with that in just a second. Notice how the totals are much bigger than the other sections. So I actually want to hide the total section. A really quick way to do that is to hide that actual column on the spreadsheet. So I'm going to right click on letter J, which is the totals column. I'll right click. Then from there, I'll pick on the word hide. That's going to hide the column from the spreadsheet, and it also hides it from the chart as well. So that's a good lesson right there. If you hide the column on the spreadsheet, or if you hide the row on the spreadsheet, that'll hide it from the chart as well, as you can see. Now I still can hardly even see the percent of total, but now I don't see the totals at all because I hid it. Now I'm going to pick up that chart and we'll move it over here so I can deal with that separately. That's it. So we'll move it over here. And I'm going to make that chart nice and big by using the sizing handle. Now I can't see the percent of total hardly at all down there. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to move that percent of total to the legend. So the way you do that is you pick on the design menu, design, and then we'll say switch row and column like I showed you before. Switch row and column. Notice how the word percent of total is now on the legend. It should be this greenish color. It should be right there, and it should be right there, but the number is still too small. But now we're going in the right direction. Now I could even make this larger for you. I'll stretch it out again. So we move the percent of total to the legend by using the switch row and column choice up here. Now I'm going to click on the word percent of total, and I'll pick on the word percent of total a second time. Notice how it's now selected by itself. So you want to try that. You want to click on it once, wait a second, and then click on the word percent of total a second time so that it'll be by itself. And now here comes the important choice. I'm going to change the chart type of that one section. So I'm going to come up here on the design menu. I'll pick on change chart type. And we'll get this other window, of course. Now in Excel 2013 and Excel 2016, you can change the chart type of each individual section. So I'm going to go ahead and there's this percent of total. I just scroll down. I'm going to change the chart type right there to a line chart. Then I'll pick where it says secondary axis. That's going to be really important for us. The secondary axis is going to appear on the right hand side, as you can see. And I'm going to click on OK. Let me make sure that I check that. And I'll click on OK. And let's see if that worked for us. Okay, good. This is what I was shooting for. The green line is now the percent of total, as you can see on the legend, and it's on the right-hand side or the second axis, and that really allowed us to plot two different types of data on the same chart at the same time. So that was a really good one to know about. Watch how we did it again. So make sure that the section that you want is on the legend. I'm going to click on that section and click on it a second time. And then what we did was we changed the chart type for that one section only. I picked on the icon that says change chart type up top. Then here you have different, you can change the chart types for each different section. So I went down to the percent of total, made that a line chart, and then I made sure that it is checked where it says secondary axis, which is over here on the right. And that gave us the effect that we were looking for. Now, there's one more thing I'd like to do to this chart. I'm going to click on that line that we made, right? And then notice how it's selected. We're going to turn the numbers on by using the data labels. So remember, whenever you want the data labels, you're going to, whenever you want the numbers, you turn the data labels on. So I'll pick on the design menu, and I'll pick on add chart element, data label, and this time I'll say above, which is going to be above the line. And now we have numbers on the line as well. People like that extra touch. All right, so that's called a two-axis chart or a combo chart because part of it is a line chart and part of it is a column chart. The reason that you use such a chart is so you can plot two different types of data on the same screen, on the same chart at the same time. Let's briefly talk about printing the chart. So I'm going to click outside of the chart. I'm going to click over here. And I'll say File, and then Print. Now notice how it makes it so that it prints the data and the chart at the same time, right? Which is fine. Now, what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to click on the chart before I print. I just clicked on the chart, then I'll pick on File and Print. And notice when you do it that way, just the chart prints by itself. So let's go back to the main screen here. If you click outside of the chart before you print, then it'll show the data and the chart on the same page. However, if you click on the chart before you print, then it'll print the chart by itself, as we can see. Now, another popular type of chart is called a pie chart. So now this time, a pie chart can do one of these columns. So I'm going to highlight my titles over here. Now on my keyboard, I'm going to hold down my Control key, and then I'm going to highlight the numbers in column K. And then I just lifted my finger. So notice how column K is highlighted and column A is highlighted because I held down my Control key. So this way you can select different areas of your spreadsheet at the same time. So from here I'll pick on Insert, and then we'll pick on, notice how we have different chart types, and there's the pie right there. And I'm going to use this one. In the next example, I'll show you how to use something like these two over there. Those are something special. So I'm going to just go ahead and pick on this first pie over there. And then pretty quickly it made a pie chart for us. Now I'm going to move this. I'm just going to drag it so it's not in the way of the other charts. And I'll move it right over here. And of course, you know what I like to do. I'm going to make it larger. So I'm going to go and scroll down. And we're going to pick on the chart. I'm going to move my mouse to the edge of the chart. I like to use the sizing handle in the corner, and we'll stretch it out. Of course, it became larger. Now, let me show you how to add the numbers onto your chart. That, of course, would be the data labels. So I'll pick on the design menu. We'll say add chart element. We'll pick on data label, and I'll say outside end, and now we have the numbers on each slice of the pie. They're actually called slices. Now, if you wanted to change the color of the slices, then you can click on a slice, click on it a second time so that it's selected by itself, and then you would pick on the format menu, and from there you would pick on the shape fill, and then from there choose among your colors. And the nice thing about these newer versions of Excel is going to show you what that looks like before you pick it. All right, so let's pick one that kind of will go with those other colors. Something like that might be good. And you can see that it changed. Now, let me show you how to maybe separate one of these sections from the pod and maybe focusing on that section. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the section itself, and I'm going to click on this section a second time again so that the section is selected by itself. And now I'm just going to drag it out, and notice how that section is now separated from the rest of the pie. So watch again. I'm going to drag it back in again. When I click on that section the first time, the whole pie is selected. But I'm going to click on that section the second time, and then it's selected by itself. Then I can just drag it out, and you can see how that's going to be effective for us. Now, a lot of people will say, well, what if you wanted the title of the department to be right where the number is as well? Well, let me show you how you can go further than the normal choices. Once again, I'm going to move my mouse to where it says chart area, and I'll click there so it selects the entire chart. From here, I'll pick on the design menu, and I'll pick on add chart element like we talked about a few times, and we'll do data label. However, this time I'm going to say more data label options. Now that's going to be another way to open up that extra window that we've seen a few times. There's the extra window. In this case, let's see what series name does for us. Now, series name just says series 1. That's not the one I wanted to do, so I'm going to uncheck that. Let's try category name, and there it's going to show accounting and the percent, or R&D and the percent, and so on. So when you go into this extra window, there's so many more things you can do. That was a pretty nice one. When we add the category name, now we have the series name and the percentage on that same line. Then you might find that the legend is redundant, so we can either remove the legend or keep it there. That's up to you, and you would do that also under the add chart element options as well. So I'm going to close that window, and there we have a nice pie chart. Now, the limitations of a pie chart is that it can only plot one column of data at a time. In this case, I plotted that percent of total column. Well, let me show you a new chart type where it can plot more than one of those columns at the same time. This is going to be a donut chart. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight from A3 over to D9. This time it's going to plot January and February. Now what's going to happen is each column here will be a different ring of the donut, but you have to see it to appreciate it. So I'm going to pick on the insert menu. Now this one's slightly different in Excel 2010 or Excel 2007. If you have either Excel 2007 or 10, then over here you might see something that's called other charts, and that's going to have some of your new chart types. In Excel 2013 and 16, to get to the donut chart, you'll pick on the pie category. Then there it says donut. So I'll pick on the donut chart. Remember, that's under the other chart type category in Excel 2010 or 7. Now notice what happened. Each different ring is a different column. So one of these is going to be January and one of these is going to be February. Now let's change the numbers a little bit. So let's change this to say, I want to make it really dramatic. I'll say 18,000. And now you can see how when we change the numbers that now the pie chart, I mean the donut changed as well. So I'm going to now move this, and I'll move it below the or next to the other chart so it's not in the way. I'm just going to drag it over here perhaps. Okay, good. And let's go ahead and scroll down. And of course, we'll make that chart larger. Now, the data labels will be really important here. So I'll say insert, I'll say design, add chart element, data label. And again, I'm going to say more data label options. That is going to open up that extra window again on the side. Now this time we'll try series name. And notice that added January into there. Now what I might do with this, I might drag those to the side so they're not overlapping everything. And these you have to do one at a time, as far as I know. Good. And then I'd like to have the inner bar say February. Or maybe that was the inner bar. So now I'd like to get the numbers on the outer bar as well. So I'm going to click on the numbers on the outer bar. And I'm going to pick on the word series name there as well. And now those are going to say February, as you can see. And I will drag those out. So a donut chart has the advantage over a pie chart in that it can show more than one column at the same time. And each column shows up as a different ring in the donut. So that's what we call a donut chart. And then I just changed the data labels to show the series name, which showed the word January and February or whatever that column was called. And then you might drag those out. And here we have a pretty nice looking chart called a donut chart. The advantage of the donut chart is you can show more than one column at the same time. Each one shows up as a different ring. Now let me show you another kind of pie chart. In this case, I'm going to go to a different spreadsheet that I have available as well. And I want to show you how to make this kind of chart that looks like that. So notice how this section is now being expanded into this other area over here. So that's what we're shooting for. Let me show you how I'm going to make that. I'm going to click on this chart and delete it with my delete key. So I can do it again for you. So you're just going to have one column of data. And what's going to happen is the bottom three specifically are going to be the ones that makes into that extended area on the right. So watch how we can control that. I'm going to highlight this data. And I'm going to pick on the insert menu. And I'm going to go ahead and pick on the this pie again. And then we'll use this guy right over here. And this guy over here will give us the same kind of result, except one is, more rectangular and the other one is more circular, whichever way that you prefer. So why don't we do it this way? Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and expand that. Now this will make more sense if we have the data labels, even though the legend shows that over here on the right we have Bill, Mary, and Barb. And the Jim Smith section is right here. That really should be, or it's actually this blue one over here. That really should be over on the right as well. So let's go ahead and put the data labels on. So again, I'll pick on the design menu and I'll say add chart element, data labels. Now in this case, I'm going to go back to where it says more data label options. Okay. And we have the value now. Let's also show the category name. Good. So now we can see the different sections like that. That helps a lot. Of course, you can change the colors and do those kind of things like we've been talking about. I'm just going to move this one out so it's more visible. There it is. And then this one is hard to see as well. So I'll move that out. Good. Now, first of all, I want this to say personnel instead of other. So I'm just going to click right inside there and just change that to say personnel. Good. Now, watch how we're going to move Jim into this area over here that really represents the personnel. First of all, notice how the personnel is now 25% of the entire budget, which is those three numbers added up. 8, 9, and 8 is going to give us 25. So in this case, watch what I'll do. I'm going to pick on Jim's section. I'm going to pick on Jim's section a second time. So it's selected by itself. From here, what we're going to do is we'll go back to the extra screen that we've been talking about. So I'll pick on the Format menu, and I'll go back to Format Selection. The extra window is going to open up. What you're looking for is where it says point belongs to, and we're going to make it into the second plot, which is the one on the right hand side. And I want you to see what happened there. I can close that window. Jim is now over here, and notice how the personnel went from 25% to 35% to account for Jim. So the way you would move the sections back and forth, when you first make this chart, you have one big list of data. It's going to assume that the bottom three are the ones that will appear on the right hand side, and that may or may not be the way you want it to be. So what you would do is you would pick on, let's even say the architect needs to be in the personnel. So watch again. I'm going to click on the architect section. I'll pick on that section a second time, and it's selected by itself. When it's selected by itself, you pick on the Format menu, and you pick on Format Selection. Then you say point belongs to. By the way, this is under the choice right over here, the 3 bars. And I'll say point belongs to either the second plot, which is the actual pie. I mean, the second plot is the one over here on the right, or the first plot. In this case, we'll put it back on the second plot. And now you can see how the personnel is now 55% of the budget, because now it includes the architect as well. So that's a interesting little pie chart there that helps you expand to that other area. And just rewind the video, and you can see how I was able to accomplish that. So let me go back to my other spreadsheet. In this video, I showed you how to make a normal chart with all the different options. Then I showed you how to make a pie chart, a donut chart. Then we talked about how we were able to make the combo chart, or the 2-axis chart. Then I even showed you how to make that special pie chart, and we even talked about the sparklines. Now in the future, I might have another chart video that'll go further than this one, but I think this video gave you some great ideas on how to make your charts and how to manage those in Microsoft Excel.